like, Fast and Furious, like not necessarily like the IRS scandal, but a lot of things that we're in the middle of today are a direct result of our reaction to the events of September the 11th, 2001. We were told, and rightfully so, I think, that we were going to have to lose some of our personal freedoms in order to get a handle on our personal protection. Okay, I got that. And up to a certain point, I was okay with that. But what's happening now is the concerns of the people, and there were quite a few, that protested the formation of the Department of Homeland Security, the consolidation, the humongous growth that we have seen in the federal government's intervention in our lives is a direct result of protecting us. We all know in business, in life, in everything, that there's a pendulum, and you've heard the phrase, the pendulum swings both ways. Well, the pendulum swinging from our totally free and open society that I grew up in has now, what you're hearing and seeing in the protests and the complaints, is that a lot of people believe that the pendulum has swung too far. In other words, enough is enough. What everybody needs to understand, and I think that the point of that was on September the 11th, 2001, the folks that I want to hear from, that I'm talking to, that I'm trying to come to terms with, were anywhere from the ages of 3 to 13. Well, certainly I have no clue of what I was doing at 3 years old. But I do have a real good understanding of what I was doing at 13 years old. And so it was very, very different than what my younger brother was doing when he was 13 years old. I'll tell you why in a minute. So those of us that are out there that remember the 60s as real life, certainly from that point forward, that remember the 50s as real life, think about what's going on in the heads of the young folks who had this aura of September the 11th, 2001 over them during the time they were growing up for the last 13 to 14 years, or 12 to 13 years. It'll change your view. It'll change your perspective. I know that it did mine. So in an effort to help each other understand kind of where we're coming from, because you hear and see a lot in the mainstream media, you hear and see a lot, no matter what you're looking at, watching or reading about the Tea Party and the conservatives and the destruction of the Republican Party, or the destruction of America, or whatever. I've been very active in the Tea Party. I'm here to tell you, firsthand knowledge, and doing what I do for a living, as well as the radio show, as well as what I do for enjoyment and have all my life, honesty and integrity is a hallmark. It'll occasionally get you in trouble. It won't really get you in trouble. It might get you in a little heated situation, but nonetheless, that's the way it is, and you become known for that. So I'm just asking you for now, and I'm going to tell you how I'm going to prove it to you a little bit later in the show, to trust me on the fact that the Tea Party and individuals involved in the Tea Party have absolutely nothing but the best interest of the United States and its citizens in mind when they do what they do. They are probably your grandparents, possibly your parents. Maybe the longer shot is that some of you are youthful members of a young Tea Party type organization. I think those are rare. I think as a current day 16 to 26 year old, you owe it to yourself to get your own firsthand knowledge of who these people are. They are dedicated to, as closely as possible, because the world has changed, it is much more dangerous. There are evil people in the world who do have access to data and information and firearms and bombs and all kinds of nasty stuff. And they don't think like we do. They don't respect the same things that we do. And we can't always, on an individual basis, protect ourselves from them. So we do need some help. In other words, the reaction from the federal government to protect us after September the 11th was a good reaction. Has it gone too far? Have we lost too many of our freedoms? A lot of people think so. I happen to be one of them. I would submit to you that the best way for us to be protected is to protect each other, is to stay diligent, pay attention, be conscious of what's going on around you. And if you see something that's not right, do something about it. Don't ignore it. So, let's get back to the Tea Party and why I think the 16 to 26 folks should go not just to one Tea Party meeting, but 2 or 3 in a row. You can find them. They're everywhere. You can, like I said, you can go to startpage.com, do a search on it in your location. I guarantee you'll come up with a website, you'll come up with a blog, you'll come up with something that'll help you very easily track them down. If you can't, ask your grandparents. Ask your parents. They'll point you in the right direction. And I'll remind you at the end of the show, but when you get there, tell them the Doc Owen Show sent you. At this point in our nationwide digital broadcasting, week 2, they probably won't have a clue who you're talking about. You can tell them to start page it and find me. Or you can tell them how you found me. It is a conservative bunch. Conservative in the sense that they believe in the Constitution. conservative in the sense that they believe in a free enterprise, open market system. Conservative in the sense that they think the federal debt is completely out of control and that our representatives are not representing us properly, which is much less skin off of some. Think about this. It's much less skin off the teeth of a 60-year-old than it is a 16-year-old. You guys are the ones that are going to have to pay it back. It's going to cost you, for the first time in our lives, there's a very distinct threat that we may not be able to leave this earth having given you a better way of life than we had given to us by our parents. There's a very distinct threat that might not happen. I hope you can understand why that age group is so adamant about how we feel. It's not right. It's absolutely not the American way. Every generation is supposed to do better. And there is no excuse for that not being true. Sorry, there is no excuse for that not being true. I've thought about it and thought about it. I'm here to tell you, there's too much opportunity in the world for that not to be true. The only reason it would not be true is if it is interfered with by, at this point, what I would consider to be an overly aggressive government at all levels. Federal, some states, municipal. They're grinding us down in the name of protecting us. And I don't think so. So let's. I've sort of set the stage about the age group. So let me take some time, if you will, to walk you through where I was. A lot of people like me, but what I can give you is personal experience. And I'm going to start with the 1960s. If I start with the year 1960, I was 15 years old. Okay, so I was right in this age group that I'm talking to when 9/11 happened. All right, when I was in 1960, and actually a little bit before, I was writing my congressman for an appointment to the United States Naval Academy. I wanted to go to Navy. There are a number of reasons why. Some important, some not. But that was where I wanted to go to college. I had my mind set on it. I was aggressive about it ever since the 7th grade. I did my level best to get there. And I did. So let me dive into the 60s, and I'll tell you, first of all, I got all of this information from a website called America's Best History. Really a kind of a valuable tool just to refresh my memory and make sure I hadn't misconstrued what happened in the 60s. And it breaks it apart into decades. So it'll give you this we'll go 1960 through 69. And, see how far we get. We're about a half an hour in. I try to keep this to 45 minutes, so we've got 15 minutes left.